What if I told you that you're taking breaks wrong? I know what you're thinking. A break is a break. How hard could it be? You just don't work on work. But have you ever taken a break and still felt exhausted, unfocused, and even more drained afterwards? Then you know from experience that not all breaks actually recharge you. And in fact, some breaks, even the ones that seem restful, can actually keep you tired, scattered, and procrastinating. And when you work for yourself, your focus, your creativity, your output, and ultimately the success of your business all rely on you staying energized. So it is crucial for us to recover properly. In this video, I'll show you how to match the type of rest you take to the type of rest you need so that you always have the energy to work productively and you have plenty left over to enjoy the rest of your life too. So you take a break and then you still feel exhausted after resting. Why? Before we get to the answer, see if you recognize any of these signs that your breaks are ineffective. When you start your next task, you have trouble getting yourself back into focus mode. At the end of your break, you're still procrastinating getting back to work. You still feel wiped out after resting. If you're experiencing these symptoms, the problem isn't that you need more breaks. It's probably that you're not getting the right kind of rest for the type of energy that you're expending. For example, if you're mentally tired, just taking a physical break won't help you recover your focus. Some types of energy you might need to recover are your mental energy, your emotional energy, your physical energy, and your social energy. So the first question you need to be asking yourself is, what type of energy do I need to recover? Because the right kind of break depends on the type of fatigue you're dealing with. So let's talk about the different types of rest and how they help you replenish those types of energy when you're feeling fatigued. Most people assume that rest is just not working, but what you do during your breaks matters way more than you think. There are lots and lots of different ways that we can talk about rest, but for the sake of simplicity, I've narrowed it down into these three major categories. First, we have active versus passive. Active rest expends mental or physical energy but provides renewal. So for example, exercise, dancing, creative hobbies, reading and highlighting a nonfiction book. And passive rest conserves energy and lets your mind wander. You might have heard this referred to as diffuse mode. It allows for deep recovery. So for example, sleep, meditation or yoga nidra, taking a shower, looking at plants or bugs. Think about active versus passive rest as being on a spectrum. So the exact same activity may be more active or more passive depending on who you are. For example, if you're just learning how to crochet, you might be expending a lot of mental energy trying to follow a tutorial and paying attention to every stitch. Whereas if you're an experienced crocheter, you might just sit back and zone out while your fingers take over. As an entrepreneur, you're expending a lot of mental energy. So during your work days, most of the time you'll want to lean into mentally passive rest. Then we have external versus internal. External rest is connecting to things or people outside yourself. Humans, nature, changing your environment, so talking with a friend or going outside. And internal rest is more solitary, introspective recovery. So for example, journaling or meditation. If you have a business that drains your social battery, like coaching, then you're going to want to lean into internal rest or consider connecting with nature or animals versus people. And then we have purposeful versus purposeless. Purposeful rest is structured recovery with an intended outcome or goal. So for example, when you're running to improve your speed for an upcoming race, walking to hit a step count, or completing a craft project to later sell. Purposeless rest is rest for its own sake. So daydreaming, walking with no destination, playing with a pet, creating art just because you like doing art. As you're experimenting with different types of rest, play around with purposeful versus purposeless rest and see what feels good to you. I implement a combination of the two depending on what time of day it is and how I'm feeling. You've probably noticed that these aren't black and white categories, but it'll give you an idea of what to do during your break. Now, you might be wondering why something like scrolling on social media, which even though it's passive and generally purposeless, still feels so draining. First is cognitive overload. Despite being passive, the rapid stream of new images, videos, and information constantly activates your brain. Scrolling forces it to constantly switch attention, process information, and make judgments, even if subconsciously, which can lead to mental exhaustion over time. rest is most restorative when it allows for a slowing down of cognitive and emotional processes. Social media, with its fast pace and shifting focus, prevents your brain from entering a deeper, more restorative mode of relaxation. Then there's the emotional impact. The mix of social comparison, FOMO, fear of missing out, and exposure to negative or overly stimulating content can lead to anxiety, depression, feelings of inadequacy or stress, all further depleting your emotional energy. When you understand these dynamics, you can make more intentional choices about how and when to engage with digital content. And recognize that what feels like rest on the surface might actually be undermining your true recovery. Now, there's something else that's extremely important for you to understand when it comes to taking breaks, especially when it comes to scrolling, and that's your mindset. There are two types of mindsets you can hold towards your breaks that will either be detrimental, leading to exhaustion, procrastination, or even burnout, or beneficial, giving you more energy, a better mood, and higher productivity. Here's the really interesting thing about how your mindset impacts your breaks. According to research, the same activity, whether it's reading or playing video games or even exercising, this same activity can either help or harm you depending on your mindset, why you're doing it, and how you're thinking about it. If you're using an activity to try to escape a life situation or smother your feelings about it, you could be doing more harm than good, even if it's an activity that we tend to think of as universally good, like going for a run. When you engage in an activity to try to avoid your problems, to escape from reality or yourself, or to shut out your troubles or negative thoughts, you suppress your negative feelings, but you also suppress your ability to solve your problems. Psychologists call this engaging in self-suppression, but we can just call it escapism. When escapism becomes a habit, it can be problematic because it lowers your self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to achieve what you set out to, and how much effort you put into solving your problems. Chronic escapism can lead to depression, anxiety, poor relationships, destructive addictions, and lower life satisfaction. Most, but not all of the time, escapist breaks look like doom scrolling, going on social media, or binge watching something. This overloads your brain with low-value stimuli, as we talked about earlier. It can feel restful, but you're not really recovering. You're engaging in avoidance rather than restoration, and even productive procrastination still drains your energy without a real sense of renewal. Here's another example that might surprise you. If I finish working for the day and I start playing video games, most people would think that's a waste of time, that I'm engaging in an escapist mindset. However, if I spent that time consciously cultivating positive thoughts and feelings, or thinking about it as an enriching experience, I would experience more positive results. As you might expect, they're the opposite of escapism. Greater happiness, better health, better relationships, fewer addictive behaviors, and greater life satisfaction. Psychologists call this type of activity self-expansion. When you're in a self-expansive mindset, you engage in activities that recharge you, that don't just distract you. You feel more energized, focused, and inspired afterwards, and they lead to better mood, creativity, and problem solving. So this could look like physical movement, walking, dancing, stretching, which boosts your energy and your mood, giving yourself a mental reset, meditation, deep breathing, naps, which calms the nervous system, could be genuine leisure, engaging in hobbies, music, creating, which brings more joy and flow, changing your environment or going out in nature, so spending this time outside reduces stress and improves focus, or social connection, like having real conversations, which can restore your emotional energy. So for example, let's say you're mentally exhausted, but you've still got physical energy, so you decide to go for a run. If you use that run to avoid a stressful situation, you're engaging in escapism. But if you're running to clear your mind, feel good in your body, it becomes expansive. So now that you understand the different types of energy and fatigue, the different types of rest, and the different mindsets that you can hold about rest, to make sure that your breaks actually work, follow this simple process. Step 1, identify the real problem. What type of energy do I need to recover? So that you can choose the right type of rest based on your energy needs. In all of my years of experimentation, the most helpful thing I have found is, rather than grabbing your phone immediately when it's break time, take a pause and ask, what do I feel like doing? You might have an impulse to check your phone, but that's not necessarily what you want to be doing. It's instant gratification feel good, not deep down feel good. So sit a moment longer with the question. When I do this, I like to take a few minutes to just do nothing. It might literally be sitting and staring at the wall or laying down staring at the ceiling. So give yourself at least a few minutes there to breathe and transition out of whatever you were doing, and you'll most likely find what you want to do next. Or you'll fall asleep and have a nap. Both are good. Step 2 is to cultivate an expansive mindset. All you need to do is identify and reinforce the benefits of your leisure activities. If you're not sure what benefits you're getting, here are a few to consider. Physical is going to be more energy, better health, more strength, a stronger immune system. Emotional could be improved mood, lower anxiety, more patience, more positive emotions like curiosity, pride, contentment, or calm. Cognitive is going to be improved attention or focus, more creativity and better problem solving. Social, more feelings of connection, improved communication skills, leadership skills, or social skills like negotiation or motivating others. And step 3 is to integrate rest into your daily routine. You can have quick resets to maintain your focus, deeper recovery to prevent burnout, and at the end of the day, transition out of work mode entirely. If you've ever felt exhausted after resting, now you know you weren't actually resting, but you also now know how to fix it. And if you really want to avoid faking yourself out, check out my video, Affirmations Fail, How to Really Change Your Mindset, to find out why affirmations backfire and learn 3 evidence-based strategies to successfully change your mindset so you can really boost the results that you're getting in your business and your life.